Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday morning to hear about our exciting project. I'd like to acknowledge our ancestral owners and I'm sorry that I was not make it this morning. We had a beautiful welcome to country yesterday by Jinky. It was outstanding and incredible. Just to introduce the project, myself and my wife conceptualised this in the last couple of years in response to, friends and family experiencing hardship as they moved on from rental to rental with young children and seeing the impact that that had on them, and trying to find a way to make the land accessible to more people in a way that would meet the needs of everybody in a fair and equitable way. So we, through forming the working group, have basically birthed the Bruns Eco Village, and we hope to take you through it. So I'm just going to sit down because it's easier. There's a couple of photos up here to take you through, and then I think there's an image where of the overall project. So just to take you through, those that aren't familiar with this image, it's on our website, and it just takes you through our house currently where we live is up about here near the water tanks. Sorry about the shaking. And we're proposing a school in this area here, which would be a kindy through to class 10, possibly class 12. And we're working very closely with Steward, who will be doing a beautiful presentation later today. And then down in this area here we've got Precinct 2, which is an area that we're considering for employment transport. So we've got 7 to 8 buses running through here a day that we'd like to perhaps bring into that area and allow the elderly and infirm to be able to get off and exchange with the value-added businesses that are operating out of there. Moving down to Precinct 3, this area here is about 20 acres of land that we're considering using for industrial, for producing electrons, and also we're looking at perhaps a modular housing construction cooperatively owned business in here, and some food production and value-adding services. So trying to provide that live, work and learn precinct and meet those 3 fundamental needs of gainful employment, access to public transport and access to affordable housing. So moving to this area here, Precinct 4, this is our residential and food production area, and then up into Precinct 5, which again, I'll move through these quite quickly because David Jacobson, our project architect, will go into more detail. So moving up into here, we've got the wellness facility in here, which is proposed to have an aquatic facility so that it has a healthy and strong relationship with the school, as well as the whole community resonating through that. Then moving up into this area here, where the proposed housing would be, we have agreed to give up this area completely, and we'll be moving off the land so that this area here can be, next to our big magnificent fig tree, can be considered and identified for community buildings. Next slide, please. So just to go quickly through the timeline of the proposed project, and probably just to reflect for 1 second, if I can too, on the fact that at this stage, it's probably fair to say that at the moment the project is not asking for anybody's money. This is not a crowdfunding opportunity. What it is fundamentally is an opportunity to do some training that's never been available before in the Shire. With Shane Silversprint, who'll speak after me, who's a local identity, who's done his training at Finland. To be able to deliver training that's never been available before, we think at an affordable rate. So it's 10 days of training at $100 a day, and that also entitles you to access to land over 4 seasonal field days. So at this stage, I guess, this explanation of the overall project is a work in progress, and we're hoping through the participants' involvement in the process of the VDP, these can be further enhanced and improved. So it is very much a work in progress. It's an inclusive process, So please don't take this to be a proposal or trying to sell you a product. It's purely to point to the work we put into the project so that we can steer it, guide it, and then get the input of the participants. So in terms of the timelines, I won't go into lots of detail, but basically we're currently obviously till 16 to 17. The Eco Village, we've formed a working group. We've established an incorporated association in July of this year. The VDP, the Village Development Program, process of $1,000 for 10 days of training, plus 4 seasonal field days on the land. Potential residents, as well as people, again, who would like to find like-minded people, form their own groups and buy their own land, having upskilled in some of the pitfalls that await intentional communities. The planning proposal that we're considering delivering to Byron Shire Council is a little bit different, because it will be the survey that sits within the application for the village development plan. The survey information is not for marketing purposes, but to feed directly into the training. So the training that Shane Silverspring will talk about and deliver is tailored to the wants, needs and desires of the participants. And also it feeds directly into the planning proposal. So when we give it to council, there'll be quite a unique document and a very unique way of approaching it, where it's not developer wants maximum yield, maximum dollar. It's like, here's a sensitive way of approaching it. We've consulted with the potential future residents, and this is what they've said. So, and then so consultation with surrounding landowners and community. So this has been a process that has been underway, I think, since June, since the action group formed. So we're continuing to liaise and meet with them and to see if we can find some common ground is what we're looking for, so that we can go to council together with, this is what we've worked out that we can agree on. So rather than argue, just see if we can find that common ground. So that's where we're heading. So going into 2018, the intention there is to get planning approvals, the process of the incorporated association forming into the cooperative, membership for residents and investors. Expression of interest for ethical investors is about, this is something we'll throw a lot of energy into next week, is basically saying that in this process of selling the land for less, which I'll go into, it should attract in ethical investors to come in considering lower rates of return than normal. The bonds are paid for the residents for the future after the rezoning by us and the transfer of ownership from Daly's to the cooperative, which we'll talk more about. The investors release the funds for roads, building and infrastructure, and then the first clusters are built. The remaining clusters will be built at 2 a year, which is a conservative projection, meaning that the investor funds are drawn down at $6 million a year over 5 years, building 10 clusters, if that makes sense. The community facilities will be built. The solar farm, which is on that 20-acre parcel on the south side, we're talking extensively with Inova and Quorum about building that to generate the renewable electrons that they want to sell to people renting in the area at the moment. Coming up to 2023, we're looking at the Eco Village being completed. The focus is on community facilities, paying back investors, school and wellness facilities are commenced, and then the investors are paid back in 2038, and all the money now is considered for sister projects, and that's based on the financial model we've done so far. Thanks, Blair. So a traditional developer model, as we understand it, is a third for infrastructure costs, a third for land costs, and a third for developer profit. So in our model, what we've considered is the infrastructure costs are much the same, because in particular we're attempting to build our own infrastructure. We're wanting to have autonomous power, water and wastewater. So with our power system that we're discussing with Inova, we're looking at a grid tie microgrid. So, and also considering battery technology, but when that's ready and also equitable. And so at the moment, my wife and I have considered a feasibility for the land, which is $24 million at rezone, and by our modelling it's perhaps worth up to 30, but we have decided to sell to the cooperative for $8 million as rezoned land, and then that allows for those investors to come in and see that the cooperative has purchased land with conditions on it to deliver all of those integrated services, so that they would feel comfortable that the risk was minimised, and therefore lend money at a much reduced rate. So this is that paradigm shift of how do we reduce the yield with covering our costs and risk in that whole process, because it's quite a risky and onerous process going through a rezone. So in this situation, yeah, the shift there in that picture is that all the developer profit has been wiped out, and the land cost has been reduced to a third. So living and investing in Bruns Eco Village would consist of residents that have completed the VDP, the Village Development Program. It would also consist of residents and investors, and so this is pointing to people who either don't have enough money to buy a parcel of land or a house, who would consider then putting their bond money in and putting the residual money into the investment model, which is supporting the development and returning them a moderate amount of interest. And then the last group are ethical investors, and that's following that thread of doing the expression of interest and pointing to the investors that normally, as I understand it, your role is to manage risk. So the higher the risk, the higher the interest that you pay. In this situation, we have sold to the co-op, and now the co-op is appealing to you to invest in this. Your risk in this story is next to zero, because if the co-op fails, then the property will be auctioned and you'll get your money plus more back. So in that essence, what we're trying to achieve is make it attractive, make it so that the people, the ethical investors, look at it differently and treat it differently. So the project constraints, the amount of dwellings on the land, again, is within the environmental constraints of what we feel we can manage the wastewater with. And the current environmental constraints for that are 270 bedrooms, or around about 129 houses. This affects affordability, as any increase in dwellings allows costs to be shared further and reduces weekly payments and initial bonds. So the common houses that I talked about before and shared facilities are also added costs for residents, but necessary for building community. So we're currently, our working group is engaged with a number of aspects of the Eco Village. So, and we haven't really explored the contributions from the school, the wellness centre, the light industrial business hub, and the renewables precinct. So in other words, the 20-year modelling is based on a very lean set of numbers that could be improved by funding from ARENA, for instance, for the renewables precinct, and a number of other initiatives available. So in terms of who we're affiliated with, we're a member of Bioregional Australia, and we're currently in their newsletter as a project they want to talk about, and they represent One Planet Living, which goes into basically analysis around Europe lives like there's 3 planets, Australia like there's 4, and America like there's 5. So this framework, which you can see here, assists people to live like there is one planet. Global Eco Village Network Australia is again assisting and overseeing what we're delivering and how we're doing it, which is fantastic. Go up to future feeders, so we're working with local young farmers who are incredibly amazing and excited about the opportunity to take underutilised land that might be doing 5 or 7% of its total capacity and taking that up to 100 through a variety of kitchen and house gardens to cluster gardens to community gardens to community supported agriculture, which are working farms that have a strong and healthy relationship to the community to get production. So with that spread of opportunity, there appears to be, well, the ability to take that 10 or 20 fold in terms of production organic, amazing opportunities. So moving back to Innova, we're working closely with Innova and Quorum, who are community-owned renewable energy model, to work on the renewables precinct so that we can generate our own power, minimise our grid tie exposure to fees and charges, consider battery technology in the future as it improves, but right now look at a healthy relationship to use the grid and build our own network and have control of that. And then North Coast Community Housing, as I said, have been a wonderful partner and a big supporter of the project, and hopefully that will only get better. So just jumping to the next page, this is a letter of endorsement. This is a letter of, thanks Bill. This is a letter of endorsement from the CEO of North Coast Community Housing, just saying that they're very pleased and satisfied with what they've seen so far. So jump to the last, yeah. So this is just another way of looking at financial modelling, which might be helpful for people in terms of pointing to the modelling for the initial rents and bonds. So we've got the land, the environmental constraints, the capacity, the land costs, and then the redeemable bonds. So jumping to the last one. So this is all on the website, so I just wanted to just more point to it for people who haven't come across it yet. This is all available underneath the financial modelling on the website on our downloadable page. So this just takes you through the rents for individual freestanding housing from 1-bedders to 4-bedders, and then for group or integrated housing, the 1 to 2-bedders. So they would have common spaces and they would be sat beautifully in the landscape. So through the Village Development Program application, the survey tells us as a working group what your wants, needs and desires are, so that we can better then model what's required and then propose different styles of housing by introducing different architects, different compressed earth, brick, rammed earth, straw bar, masonry, lots of different stuff to sort of see what we can do to provide a rich tapestry of amazing housing. And so this is our big beautiful fig tree at our place that we're wanting to share with you guys in the future. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, we're not asking for any money. We're providing some training. So it's $1,000 to do 10 days worth of training here at the Civic Hall over 14 months. And that's to correspond with the time that we think it will take for the rezoning application to happen at our expense and our risk. And so in that process, as I said, if people are feeling drawn to this project and want to get involved, the best way to do that is to consider doing the training, which then allows you to come to the land and engage with the land on 4 seasonal field days, where you can grab a picnic, go for a wander, and see where that takes you. So